Regular viewers to the channel will know that I recently sold my 2023 Honda Transalp 750 in favour of a 2024 Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro. Now I'll round the figures up to make things simpler, but at least here in Portugal, the Transalp costs about €10,500 and the Tiger is about €17,500. And the only way I could afford such a jump in budget was to also sell my beloved 2021 Speed Twin 1200. More on that later. So, now that I've had the Tiger for a couple of weeks, the question is it really worth 65% more than a Honda Transalp? Is it 65% better, nicer, more comfortable? Does it brake 65% more effectively? Is having a cruise control and tubeless tyres worth the extra €6,000 or €7,000? Let's find out. I'll break this down into sections and, as always, try and make it as objective as I can. Obviously, I like the Tiger, otherwise I wouldn't have bought it, but I'll do my best to avoid confirmation bias. First chapter, looks. Now, I don't think anyone will claim that adventure bikes in general are the best looking motorcycles on the planet, but I do think that both the Tiger and the Transalp are relatively good looking adventure bikes. The Transalp is let down a little by its headlight, which is too small for its face and doesn't throw out that much light either, it has to be said, but from the side I think it looks okay, especially in white and blue with the gold rims. Sorry, North America. As for the Tiger, it does look more premium with its tubeless spoked rims, larger, more comfortable looking seat and bigger TFT dash. The gold Showa forks are a bit too orange for my taste, and Mrs. RM commented that the front tyre looks as if it's come off a bicycle. When pressed, she said this is because the tyre is too skinny and not as knobbly as the Transalps, and she's right, it does look a bit weedy head-on, but the Bridgestones offer better grip on the road than the Transalp's Metzlers, so I'll probably be keeping them, at least until they wear out. As a side note, and this is purely a personal preference, I prefer the more substantial, heavy-duty appearance of the Rally to the GT Tiger, which, with its smaller front wheel, looks more like a competitor to the Tracer 9. I believe sales of the Tiger 900 are roughly 2/3, 1/3 in favour of the GT models though, possibly also because of the tall seat height on the Rally models, so I must be in a minority. So in the looks department, it's a draw for me. Neither have Panigale levels of drop-dead gorgeousness, but as adventure bikes go, they both look decent enough, and with the possible exceptions of the Africa Twin, Moto Guzzi Stelvio, and of course the Multistrada, I can't think offhand of that many adventure bikes that are significantly more handsome. Comfort now, and let's start with wind protection. I had the taller touring screen, you can see here, and the optional deflectors fitted to the Transalp, and these proved really excellent for my 1m87 or 6'2" frame. You do sit very much in the Transalp though, and this helps a lot, although the seat doesn't have any height adjustment. The Tiger's much taller. I'm experimenting at the moment with seat height, which is adjustable between 860 and 880 millimeters. The taller setting means my legs are less bent, but I get more wind on the top of my helmet, and the lower setting means, yes, you guessed it, less wind, but slightly more cramped legs. The Tiger's windscreen is easily adjustable on the fly though, whereas the Transalps can't be adjusted at all, even with tools. Overall, a marginal win for the Transalp with its lower riding position, taller screen and deflector kit, which are all optional, but I'll need to experiment more with the Tiger for a definitive verdict. Suspension, a win for the Tiger, no question here. This is clearly where a chunk of the money has gone. Fully adjustable front and rear suspension, and the components are better quality. You immediately feel a difference on the road. The Transalp's rear shock is extremely soft, even with the preload wound up to the max as I had it. It's very comfortable at low speed, but if you push it, the rebound can't keep up, and you end up pogoing down the road. It's not dangerous, it's a Honda, but it can be unnerving, and the rear shock is something I would have changed if I knew I was going to keep the bike. Jumping on the Tiger, and everything feels that much calmer, just as comfortable at low speed, but it always feels that much plusher, that much more expensive, which it is, of course. The Rally doesn't get the electronic suspension of the GT, but it's still very good, fully adjustable, although as I'm still running in the bike, I've yet to play around with the settings. The riding position, well, as I said, you sit very much in the Transalp, a very natural, upright, comfortable position. The Tiger still gives you the adventure bike posture, but you are canted slightly further forward, making it ever so slightly more wristy. This is something I particularly notice when I have the seat set to its taller 880mm position. Raising my backside causes me to lean further down over the bars, causing very slight lower backache after a couple of hours. For this reason, and having played about a bit with the two seat heights, I think I'll probably stick with the lower of the two settings. It doesn't affect wind blast or leg bend that much, but the lower seat does give me that more upright back position, which I like so much on the Transalp. How about the engine? Well, as I said, I'm still running the Tiger in, so I can't really give it the beans yet, but I can already report that it's smoother and much more elastic than the Transalps. What I mean by that is that the engine is quite happy to pick up from very low revs without complaining. There's absolutely no juddering at all, and I can also feel the extra 15 horsepower over the Transalp, although as the Tiger also weighs about 20 kilos more, acceleration is similar. Vibrations are present on both bikes, but the Tiger wins, especially on the 2024 Plus models that receive a rubber-damped handlebar mount. Now, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure exactly what this entails, but if it is just this millimetre-thick rubber washer that you can see here clamped between the two halves of the mount, it kind of beggars the question as to why all bikes don't get this as standard. I mean, it must just cost pennies. Be that as it may, the Tiger has the meatier engine of the two. Average fuel consumption on the Transalp was 4.5 litres per 100 kilometres, which is about 63 mpg UK, 52 US. And so far on the Tiger, I've been returning 4.6, which is 61 UK, 51 US. So a statistically insignificant difference. The Triumph's engine is still tight though, so the figure may improve, probably will, but as I'm still running it in, I'm taking it easy, and once the 1,000 miles are up and I can let rip a bit more and use more fuel, I would expect the figures to go down. I confidently expect, however, to average well under 5 litres per 100 kilometres, so well into the 60 mpg, 50 US, which is pretty decent for a largish adventure bike. Sound is similar too. The Tiger has a typical 3-cylinder rasp, while the Transalp is more bassy, especially with the Akropovich end can that I had fitted to mine. How about braking? Well, it's an easy win for the Tiger here. The Transalp's brakes are fine, but once you've seen the Triumph's premium, some might say over-the-top, Brembo stylema calipers, you get why the Tiger has such stupendous stopping power. Both levers are span adjustable too, unlike on the Transalp where only the clutch lever can be changed. As with most adventure bikes which sit high on long travel suspension, there is noticeable fork dive on both bikes, but again the Tiger edges it with its better quality, more robust shower forks. How about equipment? Given the price, it comes as no surprise that the Tiger takes this category as well. It comes with just about every conceivable luxury, including manually adjustable screen and rider's seat, 7-inch TFT as opposed to the Honda's 5-inch, ambient temperature and fuel range display, heated grips and seats, remote rear shock adjuster, the Transalp requires a C-spanner, more riding modes, a centre stand, lower crash bars and bash plate, which has been beefed up for the 2024 model to something worthy of the name. You also get a centre stand, tubeless spoked rims, cruise control, fog lights, the list goes on. Of course, you can put most of these on the Transalp, but it's often time consuming, can get very expensive, and of course any mods you do make are virtually worthless when it comes time to sell the bike. Glaring emissions, there's no odometer on the Tiger. Well, there is, but stupidly you have to dive into the menus and sub-menus to display it, which is extremely annoying. Okay, so you maybe only normally want to see your bike's total mileage, once a month? But while you're running it in, as I am, and you're restricted to 5, 6, 7,000 RPM, for the first 500, 750, 1,000 kilometers or whatever, it's irritating having to dive into the submenus to see where I am. The pre-2024 Tigers used to flash the mileage up on the screen for a couple of seconds on startup, but clearly Triumph thought this wasn't of much use because that feature has now disappeared. Omissions on the Transalp? Well, most potential buyers cite the tube tyres and lack of cruise control as deal breakers. They weren't really for me, although it is nice to have them now on the Tiger. What really irked on a day-to-day basis for me on the Transalp was not being able to display the fuel range, i.e. how much further you could ride before having to stop and fill up the tank. There was a fuel gauge, of course, but the 6 bricks weren't very precise, and while you could easily do 100 kilometers or more before the first brick disappeared, the subsequent bricks seemed to fall every 15 or 20 kilometers. And as if to rub salt into the wound, Honda's engineers filled in the blank where the fuel range went, so to speak, with the unforgettably pointless grip angle feature, which told you how many degrees from 0 to 60 your right wrist was turning the throttle. Before I come to my final thoughts, and as a slight aside, many subscribers have asked me whether I regret or whether I will regret selling my Speed Twin 1200, which I had tweaked to perfection, at least for me, with add-ons like Öhlins rear shocks, custom paint job, and a handful of genuine carbon fibre parts. Well, so far so good. It went to the Triumph dealer about 3 weeks ago when I picked up the Tiger, and I can say, hand on heart, that no, I don't miss it. See, I recognised the symptoms from about 15 years ago when I owned this rather tasty Jaguar XKR Coupe, 400 odd horsepower from its old school supercharged V8. It was a real joy to drive, but after a couple of years of ownership, it had become an orbital car, a garage queen that only came out on sunny days for an hour's drive in a big loop to keep all the fluids flowing. And that's what was happening to the Speed Twin. Beautiful to look at, fabulous beefy engine, but it was cramped and had no wind protection, and I was using it less and less. So no, at least for the moment, and as much as I enjoyed staring at it in the garage, I think the moment had come to go our own separate ways. So is the Tiger 900 worth the 6,000 or 7,000 euro price premium over the perfectly competent Transalp 750? Well, at the risk of dodging the question, I'll have to say it depends. If you favour all the features that the Triumph has, and I listed earlier, big things like tubeless and cruise, or perhaps more frivolous things like heated seats and ambient temperature display, then yes, absolutely it's worth the extra. Adding these to the Transalp is possible, I suppose, at least for most of the items, but it's expensive and time-consuming. You will barely add to the bike's residual value at all, and while you own the bike, you'll still only have a 750 Honda and not the more premium 900 Triumph, if such considerations are important to you. On the other hand, if your budget is tighter, or if you are actively looking for a more bare-bones type of bike that's lower and lighter for easier to manage off-road pursuits, not to mention the ultra reliability and huge dealer network in just about every country in the world that's part of the Honda ownership experience, then really the Transalp is a thoroughly recommendable bike. It offers significantly more than, say, the recently introduced NX500, which I tried a couple of weeks ago. It looks good, it's extremely easy to ride, it sips fuel, and during the time I owned mine, a little under a year, proved to be 100% reliable. The main reason I sold my Transalp was, ironically, paradoxically, because I wanted rid of the Speed Twin, and this is also one of the reasons why I went for a Tiger over, say, the recently revised Africa Twin. Triumph Algarve gave me a great trade-in price, and I sold my Transalp privately within 48 hours of publishing the advert. Had I traded in the Transalp at my supplying dealer in Portimao, they would probably have given me a decent price against an Africa Twin, but then I would have been lumbered with the task of selling my Speed Twin privately. And the market for a bike like that here in southern Portugal is, I believe, quite limited. I think it would have taken me a lot more than 2 days to sell it. So there you have it. I'm not going to say the Tiger is in a different league to the Transalp. I'm not even going to say it's a better bike, but it is palpably nicer, more premium feeling in just about every respect. And when you factor in the additional equipment, plus the 4-year warranty and free servicing for the first 3 years that came as part of the package that I got, the price difference isn't actually as significant as the headline numbers suggest. With the extended warranty and other add-ons like the wind deflectors, quick shifter, crash protection, all of which are standard on the Tiger, plus the admittedly far from essential Akropovich exhaust, I ended up with about €3,000 worth of additional equipment on my Transalp, which is already about 50% of the price difference between the two bikes. It's your call. The Tiger is nicer to ride on the road, but the Transalp is the more pared back bike, dare I say budget bike, that you're probably going to be more comfortable taking off-road. You don't have to kit it out like I did with mine, and you can spend the cash you saved on a few trips around Europe or wherever it is that you live. In any case, that's all for today. Let me know in the comments if you think that I made the right move. Will I miss the Speed Twin? Will I miss the Transalp? And as always, thanks for watching.